Hello everyone, I am Jesse, or GameOverJesse as all of you may know me, here with us on episode 90 of the Hylian Gamescast, where we're going to be talking about the new Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, the new Pokemon Sword and Shield, our thoughts on them. Joining Daniel and I for the first time is our new best friend, N64Josh. So Josh, go ahead and introduce yourself for those who may not know who you are, and let us know why you're so lovable.
New best friend, and why am I so lovable? Wow. I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to answer that one, but N64Josh, that's me. That's my brand. I'm a Nintendo content creator, whether it be articles on N64Josh.com, videos on YouTube, live streaming on Twitch, whether that be Mario Kart or doing first looks at new indie games or just new games that come out. I'm kind of a content machine. I love to put out content. I host a couple of podcasts myself, the Nintendo Powercast, the Super Mario Maker podcast, Animal Crossing podcast. Just started a brand new show right here on YouTube called We Just Met, just talking about content creation and things like that. And so I'm a very busy guy. Work a lot, and I don't know how to answer why I'm likable. I have no idea.
It's those big, beautiful eyes.
Is that what it is?
That's gotta be it.
That's gotta be it, huh? Okay.
The beautiful
All
eyes.
right.
I love it.
Big, beautiful eyes. Perfect.
Yeah, so out of all of the stuff that you do, what would you say is the first thing that people should probably check out if they're interested?
I mean, the thing that the podcast is probably the bread and butter of my content, right? Like the Nintendo Powercast, which is everywhere: iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. It's pretty much everywhere. That's my twice weekly Nintendo show where we look at Nintendo news. Sometimes we look at retro games. Just kind of, a little blast from the past. I'll interview different people from the gaming community, some with history with Nintendo, some with Sega, some with PlayStation. It just kind of depends. It's just cool to hear people's story, to get to know them. Monday nights is our main news show. That's me and my co-host. He goes by Hate Zero, and then Thursdays I usually just kind of do a solo thing where I just kind of look at different pieces of news, or maybe I throw up a topic on N64Josh.com and then we discuss it.
All right, Daniel, do you have any brain melting questions you would like to ask?
Probably nothing brain melting. Maybe some normal questions.
Not good enough.
Yeah, well, for those who are wondering how this all happened, those watching us live in the chat here, we met Josh at E3 here. Not here.
He was
LA.
robbing a bank and
us.
Needed some help.
That's how
getting
we met
away.
Him. Yeah, that was exactly it. He was robbing a bank. No. So E3, I mean, that was an incredible time. I guess what was the big highlight for yourself though, Josh?
Honestly, just meeting so many crazy people, right? Just there's so many crazy connections that were made. That's the thing I really want to say. Not crazy people. Crazy people are crazy, but the crazy connections that were made just with you guys and so many others. It was so nice to be a part of a community that wasn't just like this, was just screens, right? To be like face to face and get a meal together, and that was probably the biggest highlight, is just being able to hang out as a community. I will say you guys had to take off early, but getting to do the podcast from the floor of E3 was that was a pretty big highlight. I'm not gonna lie, that was a pretty big highlight. And so just setting up the camera, turning on the lights, and just sitting in a glass room while people are walking by and kind of wondering what's going on. And it was really cool.
That's pretty cool.
I would say that's probably the one moment that you just look around and you're like, oh, I'm kind of an important person. I get to do something cool.
This moment
during the behind the scenes, I have footage of, I won't say who, but a relatively large, well-known content creator walked by, and I was talking with my friend Caitlin, who I met at E3. She helped me out and did the show with me, and I was like, we were like joking, like all these people think we are important, right? And then I go, oh, except that guy's huge. He definitely doesn't think that. So
Yeah,
I love it.
It's almost a similar feeling to what I felt whenever I got to my seat at the Bethesda E3 conference. I was looking around, and it was like all super famous people around me, and I'm just like, am I supposed to be sitting here? What's going on? And it turned out, yeah, I was like, I went and asked someone, they're like, no, you're supposed to be there, and I just looked back, and I'm like, are you sure? Because that's like one of my favorite YouTube people, comic historian, who just talks about comic book stuff all the time, and different storylines in the comics, was sitting like 2 or 3 rows in front of me. And there was someone else that I wasn't necessarily a big fan of, but I knew who he was and I liked what he did and everything, and he was on a few other YouTube channels that I liked. And then there was a bunch of filthy casual people sitting around me, like the people that like managed the actual business, and I'm just like, I don't know if I belong here. And then there was like some dude sitting diagonal from me that I was talking to. He interviews different bands and stuff like that, just basically a bunch of metal bands. And I asked him how many followers he had on YouTube, and he had like 4 million. And I'm like, okay, well, now I'm embarrassed. So, but yeah, it was a really good time. That was probably the one time that I kind of felt like that. But what kind of topics did you do on your podcast from E3?
We just recapped the show, right? We kind of just recapped the week, and the different, some of the different contacts that we made, the games that we checked out. And I mean, E3 for me was, this was the first time going under my own brand. I had been one other time, and I worked, right? Like, I mean, it was like walking 7 miles a day back and forth through the convention center, just like, okay, I have this meeting. Okay, I have this meeting. Like, I didn't get to play. I didn't get to play Link's Awakening. I didn't get to play Pokemon, and I didn't get to play Luigi's Mansion. I didn't get to go in. That's probably my biggest disappointment, is not being able to go in. But you guys saw my tweet, right? About the Link statue, the little Link keychain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you had a friend that gave you one or something? You got hooked up?
Oh.
No?
Okay, you guys ready for
going
this?
On? Oh,
this? Yeah. Okay, so I'd been talking with the different Nintendo ambassadors, right? Just because it was like kind of cool finding out, like, where they were from, what they were doing, just things like that. Just
out there breaking hearts,
Yeah, just chatting. And so, well, one of them in particular, she helped me with it, like, set up my camera, and we played the Marvel Ultimate Alliance, the Black Order, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. And so I recorded the whole thing, and she did such a great job of like breaking everything down. She was very knowledgeable. I mean, it was very apparent that she knew what was up. Right? This wasn't just a job for her. Like, she was like, she took it serious. And so I asked her after like 10 minutes before E3 was about to end, I said, hey, do you have like a supervisor? I went back and saw her game. Her name was Ashley. She goes by Banana Boat on Twitch, if you guys want to go check her out. But I said, hey, do you have like a supervisor or anything? And so she was like, yeah, he's right over there with the green stripe on his arm. I was like, okay. So I was like, hey man, you're like a supervisor or whatever. And I could tell it was almost like at a restaurant where they're like, you want to talk to the manager, and the manager's like, oh no, what was wrong with your food, right? And so I was like, hey, I just want to let you know that like Ashley did an amazing job, like showcasing this game, making it, like, helping me understand it better. In the short time I was here, I'm way more hyped for it than I was before I walked up here, and I just want to let you know, her and everybody that I talked to did a really good job. And he's like, I appreciate you telling me that. Reaches into his pocket and hands me the keychain.
Wow. All right.
That was it. Like, I didn't ask. I was like, this is it. To try to ask anybody else was futile, right? That was it. Like, even the ambassadors that were there were like, we can't help you. Like, there's nothing we can do. Like,
yeah, sorry, I wouldn't give mine up either.
No, I don't blame you. I mean, I got packs this
yeah.
later, so there's another chance. But I had just given up hope on getting this keychain, and here he just pulls it out of his pocket randomly, and he's like, hey, thanks for the feedback. So
I think I've got, for those who are like, what the heck is this guy talking about, this keychain?
Yeah, lesson of the day,
Have a bunch of
guys.
stuff.
Be nice and polite, and you might get stuff.
This is the keychain that we're talking about. So they were giving away at the E3 Link's Awakening booth. It's just a little tiny Link. He's precious and adorable, and I love him.
Yeah, and for some reason, people were trying to sell him for $80.
Yeah, on eBay. Like, we got out of like day one of E3 and look online and like, wow, people are already listing this online. Like,
Why would they want to get rid of the cute, adorable Link?
Like Ed was saying, he's like, yeah, if it's not nailed down, people will sell it. Like, it's wild. But yeah, that's super that you were able to get one. That's
your new best friend Ziltic, you mean?
Yes. He's a good dude, man. He's a good dude.
All right, so you also have a book, Josh, right? Would you like to talk about that for a bit?
Yeah, I do have a book. It's called Another Castle, and it is my journey with content creation.
Okay, I thought you were going to say slaying dragons, but that's fine too.
I know, sorry. Yeah, but with content creation, depression, disappointment, and like kind of just navigating the waters and realizing that like sometimes our princess is in another castle, right? I illustrate everything with Super Mario Brothers. And so to kind of just give you like the quick pitch here, it's like we have those moments in our life where we set goals and we're like, hey, I'm really hoping to attain this goal. And it looks like the stars are aligning and everything's coming together. And, it's kind of like climbing the mountain only to get the better view of the real mountain you have to climb, right? And your princess is in another castle. And the point of the book is to just find joy in the fact that you're in the journey, that you get to keep going, that you to try to fall in love with the process of whatever goal it is you're trying to complete. And so that's it. It's on Amazon. It's on Audible, and it's not a super long read. And it's like I think you can listen to it in about 2 hours. It's me. I recorded it. It's my voice.
I was just gonna ask if you actually did the narration for it.
I did, yeah, I did.
Nice.
I did everything. It's kind of a little hack of mine when it comes to writing. If I record the audio, I automatically proofread, and then I can change sentence structure while I'm doing the audio, and then just stop the recording and write the sentence the way it should be, and then keep going. So
nice.
There's a little pro tip for you guys if you want to record your own book.
Nice. I'll just have to get good at writing first. And I'm right there.
If I can write, anybody can write.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I like transitioning from writing for different gaming websites to doing my own videos is I do not have to worry about punctuation or poor grammar or bad spelling, because when you read it out loud, it doesn't matter where the comma is or what's capitalized and what's not. You can just fix it in your head.
Yeah,
so, there you go.
But it's on my list. I've yet to actually check the book out, but I know Chublima, who couldn't be here today because, she says it's because she's buying a couch, but the real reason is because Josh is replacing her full time.
Whoa!
No, just
whoa!
kidding. She's buying a couch, but she mentioned that the book actually helped her get through a hard time, and she really recommended it. So, it's definitely going on my list here. So. Is there a link I should throw down in the chat here if anyone's interested?
So n64josh.com/anothercastle takes you to the paperback, and then n64josh.com/audible takes you right to Audible. The book on Audible. So.
Daniel, do you have any final questions before we move on?
I don't think. No, I don't.
No? All right.
No.
Josh, for those who fell in love with you during your time telling us about your lovely self, where could they find you? What could they type in to if they wanted to catch up on your Twitters or whatever.
It's N64Josh everywhere. Like everywhere. Like, I mean, yeah, all the places. Like Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. You know, I always jokingly say farmers only if that's your thing. Like, it's N64Josh. I think the only one I just don't use that much is LinkedIn. I think that's the only one. But I mean, everything's N64Josh, and the hub for all my content, N64Josh.com. So, and I love to talk games, guys. Like, I mean, you know, hit me up on Twitter. Like, I love to chat, and it's cool.
All right, and there's a lot of people asking in the chat here.
Gibbs just says he's in love with me. I just wanted to play.
See, that's how easy it is. That's how they fall in love with you. But there was a lot of people here mentioning the very sad thing that happened earlier. Whether you're a fan of him or not, Etika has passed away. He was dealing with some stuff for about a year now. Do you guys have any memories, or did anyone get a chance to talk to him, meet him in person? I know some of the other Zelda people that I'm friends with were really close to him, so I don't know if you guys were, or if you have anything that you would like to say about it really quick.
I didn't know him. I saw his content. You know, he seemed to be well loved by his community, and I think the only thing that we like, one of the things to say is, like, if you're in that place where you're hurting, like, reach out to people, there's numbers that can be, that you can call. Like, don't, like, as alone as depression feels coming from somebody who has dealt with it, there's people that will listen. So, you know, it feels like one of the problems with depression is it feels like it's your own journey and nobody else has experienced it, and it's not the case. The more you start having conversations about it, the more you find out there's a lot of people that have dealt with it and that can come alongside you and help you out. And so I think, I mean, that's it's important. Just find somebody to talk to.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I never actually was not a follower of his, or I'm not that familiar with much of his content. So I just, you know, I just one of those names that I know because he's very big in the community. So, but I mean, it's never, no matter how well I know the person, it's always a heavy subject to, and it's always saddening to hear when things like this happen. So I put on my Twitter at least a bunch of hotlines as well that, you know, that there are resources out there as well. I see even a lot of workplaces will also offer things like that, counseling for free and things. So yeah, absolutely. I can't speak. I never met Etika. I don't know him or anything, but you know, for anyone who is going through a hard time, you know, even if you just want to message someone on Discord or on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, or find out if, you know, if counseling is something available to you. Otherwise, there's always hotlines, right? So, yeah, it's heavy. I don't know how to approach subjects with seriousness, so that's not my strong suit. But yeah, it's tough. And I know he had a lot of fans who are really, including Kayla, who's not here, who are really upset over this. So yeah, that's I'm gonna stop talking now. Jesse, why don't you take us away?
I was listening to a podcast earlier that kind of briefly went over it, and they mentioned, I don't know if it was just on YouTube or between YouTube and Twitch, but they mentioned that he had roughly, he was getting close to reaching that big 1 million follower goal, or 1 million subscribers. So there's definitely a lot of fans that are saddened by this. I know a bunch of our friends were big fans of his. I seen them tweeting about it as well. There was a bunch of people mentioning, I don't know what the story was, but it seemed like maybe his YouTube channel got taken down a week ago from a video that he posted, and there was a bunch of people wanting a petition signed to bring it back up so that they could just remember all of the fun videos and everything.
Yeah.
And for those that are watching this, if you're going through a bad time and you don't think that you have a friend or someone who will listen, feel free to reach out to me on Discord or Twitter, and I'll chat with you. And we can go over some stuff.
Yeah, and likewise, my DMs on Twitter are open. So,
yeah. All right.
I'm just really bad at checking my phone. So, but yes, no, but definitely reach out, even if you think it's someone that won't reply, or no, I don't think there are as many people that are too big a deal or whatever to not respond to someone who really needs help, right? So at least I would hope not. So
all right,
but yeah,
are you guys ready
Jesse?
for the first news topic here? Breath of the Wild got a sequel because they had too much DLC.
Wait, there's
basically.
a sequel?
Maybe. it could be a new Cinderella game. I'm not sure.
Oh, that sounds.
Although
that sounds
Disney's getting their claws into all the studios, so.
That sounds right.
So this news comes from Kotaku. Their headline reads, Breath of the Wild is getting a sequel because the team had too many DLC ideas, and other info from Zelda producer, written by Jason Schreier. Jason Schreier,
Jason.
yes, that's it. So skipping their little intro here, going straight to the interview because it's kind of a long one. Aonuma says, the original game was released 26 years ago on the Game Boy. This is talking about Link's Awakening. Getting that Game Boy version is a little hard to do these days, so I've wanted to remake this game for a while. When I create a remake or reimagination, I don't want to just make it completely the same. I always want to incorporate new elements. For even people who have played the original, I want it to be a fresh experience. So I was looking for that opportunity. There was also a discussion separately of an idea of incorporating something where users can arrange something on their own in the game. In Zelda, I was thinking what that could be. We landed on the idea of dungeons. When we were thinking about arranging dungeons, quick segue here for those who don't know, the original Zelda game, I don't know if they mention it here or not, but the original Zelda game on the Famicom Disk System was also meant to have its own little dungeon designer, but Miyamoto thought that it would be too complicated for the casual fans to understand, and it would deter them from playing the game. They would think, oh, well, that game's too hard, I can't make my own dungeons, what's the point of playing it, and then completely skip out on the actual main game. So they, even though it was finished and completed, they decided to not release it. And it seems like they're finally getting back to that idea here, which a lot of people were wishing for a Zelda dungeon designer whenever Mario Maker released, so looks like they're finally getting it. So, going on, we landed on the idea of dungeons. When we were thinking about arranging dungeons, creating a puzzle on their own is always a little bit hard, so we thought, what's an easy way to have players be able to arrange things? We thought maybe room arrangement or a map arrangement would be an easy way. And it'd feel like solving a puzzle. That's how we landed on the dungeon editor, Chamber Dungeons. Once we landed on the idea of arranging dungeons, we were thinking in Link's Awakening, pretty much every room is about the same size. So we thought this would be the perfect fit for incorporating the Chamber Dungeon. And that's how the reimagining came about. It also reminds me, if anyone has played Skyward Sword, Skykeep Dungeon, is that the name of it? You had to rearrange its different rooms as well. So it's very much a 2D version of that dungeon.
Yes and no, but I think this is a lot more customizable. Where Skykeep was rearranging was the puzzle of the dungeon, was just moving the rooms around. But this is going to be a bit more of a user end sort of based experience. Not quite as in depth as Mario Maker, but that game's just it's brilliant. But
and
but go on.
Moving down to Breath of the Wild 2. On the lack of button remapping in where's it at? It was just here. Oh well. Anyways, when we have a button arrangement, we very much put thought into how we do it because there's a specific way we want players to feel in some ways. If we freely let players do customizations on key assignments and such, I feel like we're letting go of our responsibility as a developer by just kind of handing everything over to the users. We have something in mind for everybody when we play the game. So that's what we hope players experience and enjoy as well, but we understand also that players have a desire for free customization. Schreier asks, or says, also physically disabled players might not be able to play the way developers intended. Aonuma responds, definitely, that's a very good point, and that's something we'll keep in mind going forward, thinking about it. On innovation in Zelda, Schreier asks, when we talked in 2014, you told me you wanted to reconstruct the idea of puzzles entirely. What do you want your next big innovation to be? Aonuma laughs, I can't tell you. Sad. We want to know all the Zelda stuff. Schreier says, I mean, from a big picture perspective, similar to the idea of reconstructing Zelda puzzles or puzzles in a Zelda game, that's a good challenge. What's the next big challenge for you? One thing we learned from Breath of the Wild is that when we focused on creating a dungeon that has multiple solutions, it turned into this great title. That's one thing I want to polish up and use for inspiration going forward. I thought Breath of the Wild was a masterpiece, a lot of people did, but is there anything you wish you could have done better? I can't really speak to that specifically. I might use the ideas I have for a next Zelda, or whatever Zelda series I might be working on in the future. It goes on to talk about work conditions, and then on the Breath of the Wild sequel. What made you and the team decide to make a sequel to Breath of the Wild as opposed to a new Zelda game? Aonuma replied, when we released the DLC for Breath of the Wild, we realized that this is a great way to add more elements to the same world. But when it comes down to a technical... I cannot talk, words are hard. But when it comes down to technical things, DLC is pretty much data. You're adding data to a pre-existing title. So when we wanted to add bigger changes, DLC is not enough, and that's why we thought maybe a sequel would be a good fit. Schreier asks, was this sequel originally planned as DLC? Aonuma replies, initially we were thinking of just DLC ideas, but then we had a lot of ideas and we said, this is too many ideas, let's just make one new game and start from scratch. Which technically they're not starting from scratch since they're using the same Link and Zelda models in the same main overworld, but I get what he's saying.
Yeah. I just imagine him at a desk, like they have this meeting and they're presenting all their ideas, and Aonuma just sitting there like, this is too many ideas, guys.
Literally his words in the meeting. Too many ideas.
This is too many ideas.
Yeah. We also learned Aonuma may be moving away from the Zelda series. Sort of like what Miyamoto did, because he got a promotion, which might mean Fujibayashi, the director of Breath of the Wild, might be
said
the
that name
new...
with way better than I could have.
Fujibayashi?
Yep, that one.
Okay. It's probably the only Japanese name that I'm good at, or can pronounce without stuttering, so... But yeah, Josh, since you are our guest, what are your thoughts on this? Are you more intrigued by Breath of the Wild 2, or would you have rather seen something completely different? Like going from Wind Waker to Twilight Princess to Skyward Sword, or are you more of like Ocarina of Time to Majora's Mask, Wind Waker to Phantom Hourglass, Breath of the Wild to Breath of the Wild 2?
Am I allowed to say I've never played Majora's Mask on this show?
That's fine.
You're not allowed to.
I mean,
not allowed.
No, it's not your fault. You could never find the expansion pack. It wasn't your fault. You had
I have one sitting right next to me.
I was trying to save you. I was trying to give you an out from the fans.
I have a couple of those in my collection right now. So I even have Majora's Mask on my 3DS. I just have never played it. So look, like I'm all about it. I don't care if it's a new game. Like, I loved Super Mario Galaxy and I love Super Mario Galaxy 2, and I felt like 2 was probably the better game because they could take what they maybe wanted to fix, and then they fixed it, right? And you guys know, I think, because I don't know if it was, I can't remember who I was talking to. It was the guys from Game Explain in the media room. I was like, as soon as that thing was done, you know, there's massive buzz, right? And I was like, this Zelda game the sequel has dungeons. Like, that was a dungeon. It has to be a dungeon, right? And so that's the only thing I felt like. I love Breath of the Wild. I couldn't put that game down. Like I couldn't stop playing it. I played that game continually, like 122 hours or something, right? And then you remember when that DLC came out and you could see where you'd gone on the map, and it was like, I've never been there, like that was
that was great.
Yeah, that was crazy. So I mean, I'm all about them getting. I mean, the other question I've had honestly is like, what is Nintendo gonna do in year 4? Because we had Zelda and Mario, right? We had Mario Kart, which is a port. Technically, Breath of the Wild is a port. So, this is going to be the first Switch Zelda title. And I mean, and so let's see where it goes. I hope the bosses are a little more interesting, right? Which it kind of already lends itself to that. Just looking at that creature coming back to life, and so I didn't necessarily love the Divine Beasts and whatnot. I kind of thought they were a little lackluster for what I would hope for in a Zelda game. But overall, just if they can expand on that world, that overworld, give us new places to explore and new do you remember the first time you saw the dragon flying around in Breath of the Wild and the shadow and everything? Like that was unreal. It was just like, what is this? And how do I kill that thing? And what? I loved that aspect, all those different aspects. And so if they can take what made Breath of the Wild so magical and then add to it just a little more of like an original Zelda formula, sign me up all day. Like I'm down. And if that means we get it sooner than later, then by all means.
I agree. I think that's the magical thing about video game sequels, is that they can really do that. They can take a foundation and they can pick apart the things that aren't, maybe you need refining or things, and just really build on the foundation that they've laid already. And with other forms of medium, you just don't have that same sort of opportunity to make something the same but newer and better and different.
It's essentially the George Lucas effect, but it doesn't get screwed up, right?
Yeah,
that's what it is. It's like they get to George Lucas their game, but they actually get to make it good versus the special edition Star Wars.
That's a good way to put it, without any weird extra dance numbers or. So we got a super chat here, Excel. Actually, you could give me a dance number in Breath of the Wild, but Excel super chats $1. Hey man, if you got a question or anything, throw it in the chat there, Excel. Thank you for the super chat there. But yeah, no, I'm excited to see. I think that's the thing is with Breath of the Wild, the game was built entirely with the mindset of taking feedback from Skyward Sword and applying that, and them saying like, okay, these are things we've gone too linear in our focus on Zelda game design. We've gotten too heavy into tradition and what our conventions are. So how can we shake things up? How can we change it? So then Breath of the Wild came out of that. And I think this is going to be the same thing where people they had such great reactions, but like, this game was great, but we missed this. And I think that's what we're going to see with this new title. And I agree. I'm hoping that big shot of a looked like a dungeon entrance, that there was one shot in there. It looked like a big doorway. So we'll see. We'll have to wait and see, though. I'm not going to say anything's for sure.
it definitely did look like a dungeon. And one of the things I'm hoping for is kind of like when you start Breath of the Wild, when you go to the first pedestal and the first Sheikah Tower rises up, Sheikah Towers from all over start to rise up. And then they do the same thing in the DLC, that all of the new shrines start to rise up out of the ground as if from nowhere. And I'm hoping that they just redo the same thing again in Breath of the Wild 2, to where you go and you do something, and maybe when the castle rises up out of the ground,
that
all of the old temples from like the Earth Temple or the Fire Temple, the Water Temple, they all just start to rise up as well. So it's like,
Even
no,
just
they
the
were.
entrance.
Yeah, it's like they were there the whole time.
Because we see the whole castle go up. Like, who knows what else could...
Yeah, and they just rise out of the ground the same way they did in...
Don't mess with my emotions, Jesse.
The first one.
Don't mess with my emotions.
And then something else that I thought like would be awesome for them to do in the second DLC, to give us more temples or whatever, if they were going to go in that direction. Like the easiest way that I seen they could have done that is everyone was hoping to play in the past in Breath of the Wild with the DLC, because you get all the memories and then you could see all of the villages the way that they are in the cutscenes, like Hyrule Castle Town. It's, you know, there's all the different buildings and stuff in it that they created for a cutscene that we never get to see or play or run through, but they still exist. We just can't access them, which is sad.
Yeah.
But
I think they were meant to at one point, but
yeah, maybe
then the story changed.
But in that same way, I was thinking like an easy way thing they could do, because they have the Trial of the Sword, to where you literally just put the sword in the pedestal and all of a sudden like you get taken to the trials or whatever. And there's the Temple of Time. In Twilight Princess, when you put the sword in the pedestal, the stairway... wait, is it the stairway? Yeah. But the first one, the doors open, right? And then in the second pedestal, the stairway opens.
You gotta go through the door. And then it takes you into the, like, back in time.
Yeah.
The not destroyed Temple of Time.
Yeah, and Ocarina of Time does the same thing. When you put the sword in or pick it up, you go back and forth through time. So I was thinking, oh, they could just do that in Breath of the Wild. Like, all of a sudden there's a pedestal in the Temple of Time. Then you go and you put the sword in, and all of a sudden, the almost said Spirit Temple, the Temple of Time is, like, reconstructed. It looks great. You walk out, and all of a sudden you're in the past 100 years. So I thought that would be a great way for them to do that. But since we're already talking about ideas that we want for Breath of the Wild 2, Josh, what's a major thing that you would like for Breath of the Wild 2? We'll go through and do 2 each, since I already have done 1. You can go, Josh.
Hey everyone, it's me again, Elia Rose. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. And you know what? If you're a fan of videos like this, you should totally subscribe and give this video a like, and comment below to let us know what type of videos you would like to see us create in the future. And if you would really like to support all of us here at the GameOverJesse channel, please consider purchasing a GameOverJesse t-shirt or becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where you can receive many rewards, such as getting shoutouts, having any topic or theory that you select discussed on the podcast or made into its own video, having your question answered, joining on as a guest on the podcast, and playing with us during our Twitch live streams at twitch.tv/GameOverJesse, and much, much more.